Hello, everybody, and welcome to chapter 33 of the book of Bereishit as we continue to travel through Tanach. Chapter 33 is a lot shorter with only 20 verses, and it starts at the very bottom of page 222 and 223 in the Koren Sachs Chumash. In this chapter, Yaakov finally comes face to face with Esav after years of fear and estrangement, and instead of the violent confrontation that Yaakov had been preparing for, Esav greets him, embraces him, and they weep together. At first, Esav initially refuses Yaakov's gifts, saying he has enough, Yeshli Rav, but Yaakov insists, explaining that the gift will help restore their relationship. Esav offers to accompany Yaakov, but Yaakov declines, explaining that the children and flocks need to travel slowly. The brothers part peacefully. Yaakov settles briefly in Sukkot and then in Shechem, where he purchases land and erects an altar. With that in mind, let us turn to chapter 33, verse 1. Vayisa Yaakov einav, Yaakov raised his eyes, Vayar, and he saw, Vehine Esav ba, that Esav was coming, Ve'imo arba meos ish, and with him were 400 men. Vayachatz es hayeladim al Leah va'al Rachel va'al shtei hashfachos. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maidservants. Verse 2, Vayasem es hashfachos ve'es yaldeihen rishona. He put the maidservants and their children first, ve'es Leah viladeha acharonim, then Leah and her children behind, ve'es Rachel ve'es Yosef acharonim, and Rachel and Yosef at the very back. And this is all because he is still afraid that Esav is going to attack them. Verse 3, V'hu avar lefnehem, and he went ahead of them, Vayishtachu arza sheva pa'amim, and he bowed down to the ground 7 times, ad gishto ad achiv, until he came close to his brother. Verse 4, Vayaratz Esav likraso. Esav ran to meet him, Vayichabkehu, and embraced him and hugged him. Vayipol al tzavarav, Vayishakehu, and he fell upon his neck, and he kissed him, Vayivku, and they cried and they wept. And our rabbis point out that there are dots on top of the word Vayishakehu, and he kissed him. And there are several interpretations given for these dots, and one of the explanations is that Esav actually tried to bite Yaakov, and a miracle occurred, and his neck became hard like marble, and he ended up damaging his teeth, and that's what made him cry. So even at the last moment, we're not sure what Esav's true intentions were to Yaakov and whether he had actually forgiven Yaakov and was prepared to move on. Verse 5, Vayisa es einav. Esav looked up, Vayar es hanashim ve'es hayeladim, and he saw the women and children. Vayomer, and he said, Mi eile lach, who are these people to you? Vayomar, and Yaakov said, Hayeladim asher chanan Elohim esavdecha. They are the children that Hashem has graciously given your servant. And our rabbis explain that Esav is asking this question, perhaps because there are so many women, and it would have surprised him that they would all be wives of Yaakov. Verse 6, Vatigashna hashfachos, Heina v'yaldehen. The maidservants and their children came forward, Vatishtachavena, and they bowed down. Verse 7, Vatikash gam Leah viladeha. Leah and her children came forward, Vaishtachavu, and they also bowed down. V'acham nigash Yosef Rachel Vaishtachavu. And last, Yosef and Rachel approached and bowed down. They were all trying to show respect and humility to Esav in order to disarm him from doing them any harm. Verse 8, Vayomer, and he said, Esav said, Mi lecha kol hamachaneh hazeh asher pagashti. What did you intend by that whole camp that I met? That whole procession? Vayomer, and he said, Limsochein be'inei Adoni. Yaakov said, to find favor in your eyes, my lord. Verse 9, Vayomer Esav, and Esav said, Yesh li rav achi. I have plenty, my brother, I have a lot. Yehi lecha asher lach. Let what is yours remain yours. Verse 10, Vayomer Yaakov, and Yaakov said, Al na, no please, imna matzasi chen be'einecha. If I have found favor in your eyes, velokachta min chasim yadi, accept this gift from me. Ki al kein ra'isi fanecha, kiros pnei Elohim, vatirtzeni. For seeing your face is like seeing the face of God, and you have shown me favor. Verse 11, Kach na'es birchasi, please accept my blessing, asher huvaslach, that was brought to you. Ki chanani Elohim, for Hashem has been gracious to me. V'chi yesh li chol, and I have everything. Vayitza bo vayikach. Yaakov pressed him, and he accepted. And in these verses, Yaakov and Esau reveal a fundamental truth about the way in which they look at the world. When Esau is presented with gifts and bounty, he turns to Yaakov and he says, Yesh li Rav, I have a lot. Yaakov responds and says, Yesh li kol, I have everything. What's the difference? Our rabbis teach that Yesh li Rav, I have a lot, means and implies that I have a lot, but I could always do with more. Whereas Yaakov looks at the world through the lenses of Yeshli Kol, I have everything I could possibly need. And at their essence, this expresses the difference in the way that they look at life. For Esav, life is all about this world and how much one can accumulate. Therefore, however much he has, he could always do with more. For Yaakov, it's not about this world, so he has everything he could possibly need to be able to do the best that he can do in this world. Verse 12, Vayomer, and he said, Nis'av v'neilecha. Esau said, Let us be on our way. Ve'elcha lenegdecha. I will go beside you. But Yaakov was still unsure. Verse 13, Vayomer elav, he said to him, Adoni, my master, my lord, Yodea ki hayeladim rakim. Know that the children are weak, they are fragile. V'hatzon v'habakar alos alai. And I must care for the nursing sheep and cattle. Udfakum yom echad v'amesu kol hatzon. If they are driven hard for even one day, all the flocks will die. Verse 14, Ya'avor na Adoni lifnei avdo. Let my Lord go on ahead of his servant, va'ani es nahalali iti, and I will go slowly, leregel hamlacha asher lefanai, at the pace of the livestock before me, uleregel hayeladim, and the pace of the children, ad asher avor el Adoni seira, until I come to my Lord in Seir. Verse 15, Vayomer Esav, and Esav said, Atziga na imcha min ha'am asher iti. Let me leave some of my people with you. Vayomer, and he said, Lama zeh, why do that? Emsachen beinei Adoni, just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord. Verse 16, Vayashav bayamahu Esav ledarko Seira. So that day Esav started back on his way to Seir, Yaakov nasa Sukkosa, and Yaakov only journeyed on as far as Sukkot. Vayiven lo bayis, and he built himself a house there. Ulemiknehu asa Sukkos, and he made huts for his livestock. Al kain kara shem hamakom Sukkos. That is why he named the place Sukkos. Yaakov purposely gave Esav a destination that was far beyond the place that he was intending to go, because at this point he is even still unsure what Esav's true intentions would be towards him. Verse 18, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem. Yaakov arrived Shalem, he arrived complete, he arrived wholesome, Ir Shechem, in the city of Shechem, Asher be'eretz Canaan, which is in the land of Canaan, B'vo'omi Padan Aram, having come from Padan Aram, Vayichan es Pnei Ha'ir, and he set up camp within sight of the town. When you read these words carefully, you'll notice that the verse started by saying that Yaakov arrived Shalem, he arrived complete, which is curious because we had just learnt that he was limping on account of having been wounded in his battle against the angel of Esav. And one of the explanations is that we need to understand that life will never be completely free of challenges and obstacles. There's always going to be things along our path that are going to challenge us. But if we can overcome them, if we can be resilient, if we can stay on top, if we can maintain our integrity and our authenticity, then even in the face of adversity, we will be shalem, we will be complete, we will bring out the very best that we can. This is what is meant by Yaakov arriving complete, despite the fact that he was wounded. Verse 19, Vayiken es chelkas hasadeh, he bought the plot of land, the field, asher natah sham ohalo, the place where he pitched his tent, miyad b'nei Chamor avi Shechem, from the sons of Chamor, the father of Shechem, b'mea kasita, for 100 kasita of silver. And finally, verse 20, Vayatzev sham mizbeach, he erected an altar there, Vayikra lo El Elohei Yisrael, and he named it El Elohei Yisrael. And that brings us to the end of chapter 33. Look forward to learning chapter 34 with you, which will tell the story of Dinah's abduction and the revenge and retaliation offered up by her brothers as punishment. In the meantime, have a wonderful and meaningful day.